Welcome everybody this evening to our Vegetarian Way cooking demonstrations. This is the first in the series for this year, and we've got some familiar faces. Welcome everybody, and anyone new here, this is the first time here tonight? Okay, well welcome along. We trust that you'll be blessed by the presentation this evening. And for those who are here for the first time, I'll give you a bit of a rundown of how it works. Firstly, myself or someone will share a little presentation on something relevant to our health and how plant-based diet can be a benefit to us in that regard. And that'll go for about 20 minutes or less, depending on the information. And then followed after that, we'll have our demonstration of at least 4 recipes, generally speaking. There's at least 4 recipes, and so you should all get a copy of those coming in. Did everyone got a copy of the recipes for tonight? Yeah, great, okay. So this is a community service and we are a church. We like to just ask for a blessing. Those who are, feel free to just close your eyes or whatever you want to do as we invite God's blessing upon this meeting. Our dear Father in heaven, we thank you so much for your mercies and grace to us. We thank you for the wonderful blessings you put in nature for us, Lord, to maintain our health, to preserve our health, and also to recover our health as well, Father. We ask you now to bless us as we go through some information tonight and also some demonstrations that will be a means of helping us better prepare our foods that they can nourish us the way you've intended, so that we can have the optimum health and the optimum lifestyle. We ask this and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. So tonight I'd like to share just very briefly some few thoughts on the fighting COVID with plant foods. Now, the pandemic is over, yes? Well, we'll hope so. we'll put it this way, we're out of lockdowns, but have been for quite some time. We hope that they never return. But COVID hasn't disappeared. It's still in our community. In fact, it's probably going to be in our community going forward from here on in. And it's probably something that's going to be with us and the next generation and the next generation after that. In fact, the common cold, I've heard it say that the common cold was actually the mutations that ended up as a result of the cause of that was originally the Russian flu back in the 1800s, and we have now the common cold today. And we're all pretty much just get a little mild symptoms and things when it comes to the cold. But COVID is a different story because it's a new virus, it's a novel virus. Our bodies have not experienced that before, and a lot of people, many millions of people had great difficulties fighting COVID. And what I'd like to do tonight is just present very briefly, just a few things that can help us fight COVID with plant foods. There was one thing that was promoted during the pandemic in natural circles to help with inflammation, and that was called, what was it called? It's called, no, it was a Nigella seed. Nigella seed. And Nigella seed it's black flaxseed, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory. And what that does is allows the airway. Anti-inflammatory means the problem with COVID is the body has an overreaction with the inflammatory response, and it blocks the airways, and you just can't, too much mucus, you can't get rid of the mucus, can't breathe, and hence you've got all the respiratory problems that are associated with that. And so inflammation is a big factor when it comes to fighting COVID. So what we want to do is know how can we reduce the inflammation naturally, or in fact avoid inflammation, that kind of reaction. So that's what we want to look at tonight. Well, what we want to do is to understand this, we need to understand something called the metabolic syndrome. What is this? The metabolic syndrome. In nutritional fields, in medical fields, this is called it's a syndrome that's the result of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and diabetes or pre-diabetes, and also excess fat around the midsection. Now, it's funny, when I'm preparing this for these talks, I always find something that condemns myself, because how can I stand here before you with excess fat around my midsection? And I'm inspired to get rid of some of that fat, okay? But this is the syndrome that is cursing the Western world. And the reason, a large part of the reason is because of the lifestyle and diet in the Western societies. And so these conditions cause low-grade whole body inflammation. Remember, COVID is about reducing the inflammation so that the airways can breathe and your body can fight off the virus. But these conditions cause low-grade whole body inflammation. And they also result in increased risk of infection, and they can also cause cancers. According to Dr. Mazafarian, Dean of the Friedman School of Nutrition Science at Tufts University, USA, beyond age, these are the biggest risk factors for illness and death from COVID-19. And COVID kills by causing an overwhelming inflammatory response that disables the body's ability to fight off disease. And you'll recall that one of the, I think it was the highest risk factors for COVID during the pandemic. Number one was, you want to remember? Obesity. Obesity was number one. Obesity, asthma, diabetes. These are the three big risk factors during the pandemic. And also, believe it or not, stress and anxiety, that's also a risk factor as well. So we want to see what can we do in the plant kingdom to reduce these risk factors. And we're going to do that through plant-based nutrition. Now, studies have shown that plant-based diets may lower the risk of heart disease, hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and type 2 diabetes. And in fact, a plant-based diet, when it comes to type 2 diabetes, a plant-based diet can often prevent and even reverse diabetes. And there are many people on a plant-based diet who can testify to that. I know some personally, that they've reversed their diabetes type 2 through the plant-based diet. A plant-based diet may prevent and treat asthma. And note also that plant foods are loaded with immunity boosters such as vitamins C and E, beta-carotene and zinc. So these are all immunity boosters, and they result in more effective white blood cells in those who are living on a plant-based diet compared to those who are not living on a plant-based diet. Obviously plants and meat, so carnivores. So white blood cells are important for the immune system to fight disease, and that's what we want to encourage, and this is where the plant-based diet can do this. Now, 5 ways to strengthen our immunity and to fight disease. I want to list 5 ways here. I'll just very, very briefly touch on some points in regard to each one of these before we continue tonight in our demonstrations. Number 1 is eat anti-inflammatory foods. Number 2 is to feed your microbiome. Number 3 is avoid immune suppressors. Number 4 is to eat healthy fats. And number 5 is to eat food rich in antioxidants. So let's just take this first one. Eat anti-inflammatory foods. Now, what are some anti-inflammatory foods? These are foods that reduce the risk of inflammation from disease, okay? So what are some of the foods? Well, number 1 is berries. Berries and red and purple fruits and vegetables are anti-inflammatory and antioxidative when they are consumed regularly. Berries may also boost our levels of natural killer cells, natural killer cells, which is the type of white blood cell that's critical in fighting viruses and cancerous cells. And also special antioxidants in berries and dark green leaf vegetables make them brain foods. They're good for the brain. There was a study from Harvard University and Brigham and Women's Hospital. They looked at the health and lifestyle questionnaires of 121,000 nurses and found that those who consumed at least half a cup of blueberries and 1 cup of strawberries, that's half a cup of blueberries and 1 cup of strawberries per week, had up to 2.5 years slower rates of cognitive decline compared to those who didn't have any. So if you're worried about cognitive decline, you're worried about dementia coming in, blueberries and strawberries, yeah? Okay. They're good for the antioxidants, good to fight off those health-destroying viruses and bacteria in our systems. Right? So keep that in mind. Berries, blueberries, strawberries, things that are, as I just mentioned here, red and purple fruits and vegetables. Now, next thing we want to, second thing that fights our, or improves our immune system is our microbiome, having a healthy microbiome. What is a microbiome? Do you know what your microbiome is? A microbiome, think about a biome, which is of life, right? Bi being life, and so your biome is the home of your living bacteria and fungi and viruses in your body, okay? It's your microbiome. Our bodies are full of bacteria, they're full of funguses, they're full of, in fact, there's trillions of bacteria, viruses and fungi in our body. This is our microbiome. All of us have this. Without it, we would not be able to survive, we would not be able to digest our foods. And in fact, 70% of the immune system lives in the gut. Okay, so therefore it's important that we have a healthy gut. A healthy gut microbiome is essential to a robust immune system. And this is why you hear of people having yogurt, you know, what's it called? That's the one. And that is essential to improve the gut bacteria. I have read that some problems are that if you're just having the yogurt, a lot of them gets destroyed by the acid in the stomach. So there are some good forms that you can have it in capsules that allow it to get to the intestines without being destroyed. So just keep that in mind with some of that. Some of the sources of those healthy gut microbiome bacteria that we need and the fungi that we need. So we need to feed that microbiome. How can we do that? Well, keep this in mind that an unhealthy gut bacteria is encouraged by saturated fat. Now, saturated fat is what? In a nutshell. Fried fats, okay? Fried fats, saturated fats. Anything virtually that's fried is a saturated fat. Meat has saturated fats as well. Seafood is another product that destroys our gut bacteria. Dairy itself is unhealthy for our gut bacteria. And sugar also. This is a problem as well. So not only that, but also processed food in itself. So when we talk about a plant-based diet, the problem that I made when I became a vegetarian by choice, because I was raised a vegetarian for a few years, my mother did. Then my circumstances changed and I was a meat eater for probably about 10 years. And then at 15, I had the choice to go back to being a vegetarian. But for me, I just thought that meant giving up meat. I still ate all the processed foods, all the sugary things, you know, the milkshakes, the ice creams, the cakes, the sweets, everything like that. And you still got sick, you know, you still had problems. So it's not just doing away with meat, it's a plant-based diet. Ideally it's a whole foods-based diet, as closely as possible to whole foods rather than the processed foods. And so a healthy gut's encouraged by fibre from plant foods. And do you know that the highest plant food in the plant kingdom, the food with the highest amount of fibre in the plant kingdom is, do you know what it is? What class of foods it is? It's legumes, believe it or not. Legumes. So legumes. Beans, oats, peas, apples, carrots and barley binds cholesterol and decreases airway inflammation and mucus and improves lung function in asthmatics. So eat more beans if you want to get more fibre in there, and because your bacteria feeds on that fibre, it needs that fibre to be healthy. So the low fibre foods ends up with a very unhealthy gut microbiome. Okay, so next thing I wanted to mention tonight is avoiding immune suppressors. Now, immune suppressors can be things like added sugars, saturated and trans fats, red and processed meats, white flour foods, and vegetable oils, combined with a sedentary lifestyle. A sedentary lifestyle is a lifestyle where we're spending more time sitting at the desk than we do out there in the garden, right? Sedentary, we sit down all day. So this promotes chronic inflammation. So these things together, the saturated and trans fats, added sugars, the red and processed meats, white flour foods, together with our kind of lifestyle we live, they promote chronic inflammation. And people who consume diets that are rich in these things, the saturated fats and cholesterols, I've mentioned this before in previous topics, but people who consume diets rich in those things, they are at the highest risk of heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer. All right, so high saturated fats, which is found mostly in the meats, the dairy, the processed foods, coconut and palm oils, they can raise blood cholesterol, and people who consume the high saturated fats and cholesterol, they have the highest risks for these diseases. And these are the killers in Australia. Number one causes of death, heart disease in Australia. Heart disease, arteriosclerosis, cardiovascular disease, all these things are, these three killers in Australia are the result purely of lifestyle. We can prevent them. We don't die genetically from these things. We can prevent them simply by changing our diets. So, if you have bacon and eggs for breakfast, guess what? You've just got a saturated fat bomb that you've just consumed. Yeah? All right? And for a snack, you have a donut and coffee. All right? And that's another fat and sugar bomb. And then if you have... And so just as the inflammation starts down, it's lunchtime. And what do you have for lunch? I don't know, what do you have? Who has a nice green salad for lunch? Yeah, anyway? Oh, we've got one or two here. Great. But you have a lunch, maybe you're putting it down with some, I don't know, burgers and chips and whatever. I mean, I'm condemning myself because sometimes you're out on the road, you just can't get by without getting a veggie burger or something. But you've got to balance this all out, realising that this stuff if we're living primarily on these kinds of foods, we're slowly increasing our risk for these things: heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer. Okay? So, I'm just sharing that with you, just as general information, to avoid those kind of immune suppressors. One other thing I want to mention is to eat healthy fats. Now, what are some healthy fats? Okay, we need fats. Well, what are some healthy fats? Number one, omega-3 fatty acids. These have a powerful benefit to our body and brain. They reduce inflammation and they improve the risk factors for heart disease. They also can help prevent cancer and fight depression and anxiety. Where do you find the omega-3 fatty acids? Do you know where you find them? Who can help me here? Seeds, yes, in seeds, particularly number one, flaxseed. People think you've got to eat fish to get the omega-3. No. Where do the fish get it from? The fish got to get it from somewhere. They get it from the plant kingdom, right? From whatever they're eating. If they're eating the plankton or whatever, maybe the shrimp or whatever they're eating, their shrimp's got to get it from somewhere. So they're getting it from. Eventually, they're getting it from the plant kingdom. That's where we can get it from as well. Flaxseed, chia seed, walnuts, avocados, edamame, and many dark green leafy vegetables. Okay, many dark green leafy vegetables. And do you know, over the past few decades, there's been an increase in, when you talk about liver disease, someone's got liver disease or they're dying from liver disease. What do you think of? What would that person have been doing to wreck their liver? What do you think? Yes? Alcohol. Don't we all think that? Alcohol to wreck your liver. But do you know there's been an increase in non-alcoholic fatty liver disease? In other words, people who don't drink alcohol or very low consumption of alcohol, yet they have fatty liver disease. Cardiovascular disease, obesity, inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis, and Alzheimer's. And this has coincided with a dramatic increase in the polyunsaturated vegetable oils, while our intake of omega-3 fats has been low. So it's not just the alcoholics now with this liver diseases, it's non-alcoholics with it. And it coincides with the increase over the last few generations with the polyunsaturated fatty acids. So there's just some things to keep in mind to eat those healthy fats. Suggestion here might be a couple of practical tips would be to add 2 tablespoons of ground flax or chia seeds a day to your cereal. Eat half a cup of raw nuts daily. Avoid frying foods in oil. Steam in vegetable broth or a little water, and cook your soups without oil. Add lots of onions and garlic for flavour, and use cold-pressed olive oil sparingly. And the last thing I want to mention tonight is eat food rich in antioxidants. And so, what's one of the richest foods that is an antioxidant? What kind of foods? What do you think? Well, berries is one we mentioned already, but think of another colour now, not the reds, but the greens, the dark leafy greens. Okay, these are the most nutrient-rich foods on earth. The darker the green, the most nutrient-rich it is. An analysis of all the different types of food by a team of Harvard University researchers showed that dark greens offer the strongest protection against major chronic diseases. All right, so each extra serving you eat per day reduces your risk of a heart attack and stroke by 20%. Just by having an extra serving of dark green leafy vegetables. So who likes spinach? Yeah? Yeah, I like spinach too. Eat some more spinach, right? Have a second serve of spinach. Is any spinach left over? Oh, I'll have that. Right, take that in. Yeah, broccoli. Who likes the broccoli? Yeah? Yeah. Brussels sprouts. No. So eat these nice dark green leafy greens. They're going to be good for your immune system, okay? Reducing your risk of the heart attacks. All right? Another thing that's important in our bodies is something called nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide improves our oxygen efficiency by opening the arteries so more blood can flow to the brain. Now, it's a key messenger in the body, and it signals muscles within the artery walls to relax. It helps the blood vessels dilate to promote better blood flow. So if you have a risk of a stroke, it's because your arteries are blocked. Nitric oxide will encourage the arteries to relax and expand. Okay, so if your immune system is compromised, you need some foods that got this nitric oxide in them. Some foods are beets. They're high in nitrates and they can raise nitric oxide levels. One study showed that consuming a beet juice, and I'm thinking of here is the beetroot, okay, beetroot juice, supplement raised nitric oxide levels in subjects by 21% in just 45 minutes. Besides beets, there's dark green leafy vegetables like kale, broccoli, cabbage, spinach, arugula, celery. These are all packed with nitrates, which are converted to nitric oxide in your body. So the single best way to get a boost of nitric oxide, to get your fix, is really to eat one large green salad daily. It's always having a green salad every day is important to increase our nitric oxide in our systems. So these are just some of the things that we can do to boost our immune system. Remember, I'll just recap here, the 5 things we can do. Number 1, eat anti-inflammatory foods. Number 2, feed your microbiome. Number 3, avoid immune suppressors. Number 4, eat healthy fats. And number 5, eat food rich in antioxidants. Okay, just a few bit of information there for you to go home with. And if you want any more information on any of these things, we have books available that have a lot of good advice on the health field and nutrition that you can certainly take with you and increase your knowledge through that means. So with this now, any other questions or any questions tonight on anything I've shared here? Yes? Okay, so what do I think of what? Equal, which is the stevia. Yes, no problem. Stevia is the natural stevia, right? It's from a plant-based stevia. Yes, I don't have a problem with that. That's fine. Also, erythritol is another one. That's a sugar produced by yeast bacteria. That's another one as well. Those 2 sweeteners, usually together, you find them often in some products on the supermarket shelf for people with diabetes. They'll have, I think it's one called steviol, I think it's called, at Coles. Yeah, steviol, that is erythritol and stevia together. So there's a sweetener, yeah. It's good for diabetics, yeah. Yeah, okay. Any other questions? If not, well, we'll now go into our demonstration tonight. So, where we go here? Here we are. All right. What's the first one on your page there? What's the first page you've got there? What does it say on yours? Say? Spinach? Hang on a minute, I've got to check now. Hang on. Ready? Okay, so you're right, it's spinach and artichoke soup. Okay, and Vivian's going to take us through that. So thank you, Vivian.
Welcome. Are we ready for the first thing for the night? It's a really simple, tasty spinach and artichoke dip. It's really nice served warm, so it's a nice one for winter time. Ooh, yes. Is that better? Yes. Sorry everyone, technical difficulties. Okay, so we're going to start with the sauce base. So it's a vegan dip. So instead of using any creams and things like that, we were just listening to Paul's presentation about inflammatory foods and things. We're going to go with some healthy options. And we're going to do, it's a bean base dip. So we're using cannellini beans tonight and some cashews as well for extra creaminess. So is this one I can use? Yes. Okay, perfect. So in a blender, high speed if you've got one, we're going to add 1/2 cup of soaked cashew nuts, raw cashew nuts, not salted, not roasted, nothing like that. You can either soak them overnight in cold water, or if you're strapped for time, just pop them in boiling water for about 15 minutes while you chop your onion and stuff. So it's easy to do that. So we're going to pop those straight in the blender. These have been pre-soaked for me, thank you. I'm just going to drain my cannellini beans. I'm going to reserve the water, and we're going to use, the recipe says to use water to help blend this together, but I'm going to just use the water from the tin. Up to you what you want to do. But that is an option, so you're not wasting too much. So I was doing a little bit of research. Cannellini beans, they are full of protein and fibre, which seems like a given. I think most people know that. But they're also pretty high in potassium and magnesium. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the cashews, they are also packed with protein, but they also have calcium, phosphorus and vitamin E, which acts as an antioxidant. Oh, thank you. Let's not light anyone on fire. So pop your beans in with the cashews. There we go. All right, no wastage. Then to go in that as well, just for flavour, we've got some salt. We'll put a teaspoon on there, but feel free to adjust according to your taste. Tablespoon of lemon juice, and some savoury yeast flakes. If you don't know what they are, they look like fish food, but we sell them in the shop downstairs. So it's what even is savoury yeast flakes? Anyway, tastes good. Tastes like Vegemite-ish. I guess because it's yeast-based. And garlic. So I've got 6 cloves of garlic, but you measure garlic with your heart. So put as much as you want. Thank you. And I'm just going to pour some of this, and we'll adjust if we need to. You don't want it super runny. All right, excuse the noise for a minute. I'm going to add a little bit more of that bean juice in, because it's struggling to mix smooth for me, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that. Yeah, just add the whole lot. We'll see how we go. I have made this recipe at home a few times. Has worked. Right. Now, we're going to get our pan on the stove here. Let's hope we can get this going. Oh, are we on? Hello, anyone? Smells like gas. Oh, there we go. Not burn anyone's eyebrows off either. Okay. I want it sort of lowish, a bit high. Okay. So I've reserved the juice from our grilled artichokes. These are just the Aldi ones, but feel free to shop where you like. Can I get a spoon? I think I might try it. Thank you. So I'll just put a couple of spoons of the oil, again, just so there's no wastage and extra flavour. Just a little bit of that. So we'll get that going. It's already warming up there, I can see. So we'll go in with our chopped onion. I wonder if you guys can smell this soon. It smells really good. So we'll just give this a little bit of time just to get a little bit translucent. Start to cook down and you start to smell it. You can crush the garlic and mix it with the onion instead of putting it straight in the sauce. but we reckon you get more flavour out of it that way than that way, but up to you. Does everyone like artichokes? Anyone not tried artichokes? Ooh, okay. Got some newbies here. Wonderful. Well, expand your palate. All right. So from the jar, we have tipped the jar out, obviously, with the oil, but we've roughly chopped these as well, just so they spread further in the dip and you don't have like giant pieces. But these are just the hearts. If you've never had an artichoke, they kind of look like a flower, really nice looking flower, and you just chop the tops off. They're sort of spiny on the tops of the petal parts. And there's multiple ways to cook them. I think it's like an Italian type vegetable. Anyway, really tasty. All right, our onion's getting a little bit browner and a bit more translucent, so we're going to add the artichoke hearts to it. From this point, we're really just warming things up. You don't really have to cook anything, although the spinach we're going to wilt down. So again, I learnt that artichoke hearts, they have a good source of fibre and they're also an antioxidant. So they are good for you. All right, spinach, you add a mouthful, massive handfuls and it wilts down to nothing, but we're going to see how much we end up with. So I think I put 2 to 3 handfuls. We'll go with 2, because I think that's what's going to fit. 2 to 3, this is just the Aldi packet. If you have spinach in the garden, use that, even better. Any questions so far? Sorry? Put silver beet instead of spinach? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. That actually sounds like it would be tasty. Yeah. No, for the onion, I use the oil sorry, is that what you asked? I use the oil from the artichoke. Yes, yeah. Yeah, but again, that's a preference thing. It's up to you. You don't have to use any oil. You can use plain olive oil, whatever you like. But I just thought for the flavour, because it's fully infused with the flavours of the artichoke hearts, it just sort of increases all the flavours that we've got in the dip. This is a really filling dip because of the bean base. I took it to work last week and we had it before lunch, and then there was a few people who weren't hungry for lunch. So it does get a little bit filling. It's a good one, good filler. All right, so our spinach has wilted down nicely. At this point, you could add more if you wanted to, now that there's room in here, but we're just going to go with what's there. And then, sure, thank you. And I'm just going to pour the base that we made from the beans straight in there. Get as much of it as you can. Beautiful. All right, we're just going to stir that through. Make it warm, and that's ready to serve. When I made it at home, I did it with some little garlic breads, really good. I got a baguette, sliced it in little slices and oil and garlic and just baked it for a little bit. That was really nice. Or just, I think tonight you're going to have it with some little crackers, really good. And if you make it ahead of time, you can pop it in a baking dish and either reheat it in the oven or in the microwave, but it is nice warm. Otherwise it does sit in the fridge, no problem, for a day or so. And the flavours actually are better the following day. It does infuse and the flavours get stronger and you can taste everything a bit more, especially the artichoke. But yeah, that is all. I'm going to pop this in that dish over there and we'll get Deborah out here to demonstrate her next dish for you guys. Any questions before I head off? Everyone good? Everyone clear? Pretty simple, I reckon.
Thanks, Vivian. That looks quite nice. So for those new here tonight, each recipe we give you a little sample of, so you can actually taste what has just been demonstrated here. So a lot of work goes on behind the scenes making this happen, and they've cooked all this, pre-cooked it all for you tonight. So have a taste and see what you think. So what do you think? All right? It's good? Very good. Okay, so while you're finishing off that sample, Deborah's going to come forward and she's going to demonstrate our next recipe tonight. Here. Oh. Okay, for this one tonight, it's the next one on our program here is roasted pumpkin soup. Now, this one was first prepared and tested on me. I loved it. I think it was, in fact, it wasn't really a test for the cooking demonstration, it was just a new recipe. And I thought, that is fabulous. With winter coming up, we should make this one of our demonstrations tonight. So I've asked my wife, who doesn't demonstrate very often, as you know, but she's going to do this for us tonight. So thanks, Deborah.
Okay, so I was listening to the news and they were saying how pumpkin was going to be so expensive, but that the butternut pumpkins were going to be very reasonable. And I came across a recipe that uses the butternut pumpkin. So what you do is, I've already have the prepared vegetables here, but you just get a big baking dish. You cut the butternut pumpkin in half down the middle, long ways, and I cut off the ends because the ends tend to collect all the dirt, and then scoop out the seeds, and then in the hollow where the seeds were, you put cherry tomatoes, and then you peel and you chop the ends off 3 carrots, stick them in whole. And then with the garlic, you take a whole head of garlic and just chop the top off. Leave it as a whole head, and 1 onion, you peel it and you halve it. And then you put all the herbs that are on your list there, the The hot paprika, I didn't put as much this evening because I'm not sure whether everyone likes spicy, but you can make it more spicy. The cumin, the paprika, the sweet paprika, the thyme, the rosemary and the salt. And then you put olive oil and you roast that in the oven. So can you just show them?
If you just take that plastic off, so we can see. Okay, if you just want to hold that up.
It's going to tip a bit.
That's all right.
So that's what it looks like.
If you can see, and maybe you can see on the camera there. Joe, can we zoom in on that? Is that going to be okay?
Just
zoom.
So all that's roasted in the oven, and it depends on your pumpkin. Some of the pumpkins today were bigger than others, so an hour to an hour and a half it takes to roast them. And you cover this while you're roasting it. So you've got all your seasoning, well, the flavors in here. So then, you basically just blend it up. Now, the messiest part, which is why I'm wearing the gloves especially, is the pumpkin. So I'm just going to move this out of the way because the onion is just straight in. The garlic, you just squeeze the base of the garlic and all the garlic comes out. That's why you just leave it as a head. It's really easy instead of having to peel all your garlic, and it's roasted in the oven with all those flavors. So you just squeeze out the garlic, and then the carrots, you just probably half them. And then the messiest part is the pumpkin. It's up to you whether you want to use the skin. I don't want to use the skin because it might be a bit bitter, so I peel all the skin off the pumpkin. So it's not difficult to do, but it's just very messy. So I'm going to leave the gloves, and then I'll put the other ingredients in. So first, all the vegetables that were roasted.
So by roasting them together, the flavors of those vegetables would go into the pumpkin as well, you'd imagine, yeah? Mm-hmm.
So not that particular. If there's a tiny bit of peel on there, I've washed the pumpkins beforehand, so it doesn't matter. And the cherry tomatoes. And all these herbs and the tomatoes, it's going to, when you see the soup, it leaves a bit of like different colors through the soup. You'll see the herbs in the soup.
A little bit messy?
Very messy.
It's very messy. So
that wasn't meant to go in there, sorry. Don't want that, and I don't want that one.
So you're just taking the skin out, is that right?
I'm just taking the skin off.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you bake it with the skin on?
I bake it with the skin on.
Okay.
It's messy, but it's easier. Okay, so that's all your vegetables, and I'm going to get rid of my gloves just in here. And if you want, you can use some of the seasoning through there that's still left in the pan, but I'm going to leave that. I'll just put that over there. I don't think I'll need the knife. So to that now, you add, it's about 350 mils of vegetable stock. And the reason I'm pouring it in here is because I wanted to show you the one that I've used. So that's about 350. And then I added some salt. I just used Himalayan salt because you've got all your seasonings in there anyways. And it wasn't flavorsome enough with just the stock liquid, so I've used some stock powder as well, which is the same brand. It's a vegetable stock powder. And we carry the big cans in the store. Some of you have seen that. And then coconut milk. Now the coconut milk you can add at the end, or you can add it now. I'm just going to add it now because it gives the extra liquid that you're going to need to blend the soup. So you put all that in, and then you just blend all this up, and it comes to a nice creamy soup. But like I said, you will see the colors of the different herbs through the soup. So I'm just going to blend that up. That's pretty much it, and then you just heat it through on the stove. And I found, like with this batch that you're going to sample, I did put the coconut milk in with all the ingredients, and it didn't I don't know how you call it, coagulate? Yeah, it was just real nice. But this one is kind of a little bit thick. It's possibly the size of the pumpkin, whether you want to add a little bit more stock or whether you want to just eat it as it is. So that's basically it. It's very easy. So you basically just chop everything up, stick it in the oven, go away, and then come back and blend it up with a few extra ingredients.
And how long would you heat it up on for on the stove?
Well, till it's warmed through. Like if you take it straight out of the oven and blend it, then you're going to have a shorter time to have to reheat the soup. So it's an easy way to do something with the butternut pumpkin, which, you know, they say is
good. Yes.
They say is very cheap.
Is this specifically for the butternut, or can you use any pumpkin?
You could use another pumpkin, but this recipe was for the butternut pumpkin. So the different pumpkins, I think you'll find some of them are more watery than others, so you may need less water or more water depending on which pumpkin you use. But some of these ones, some of the butternuts were quite big, and probably need a little bit more seasoning as well if you have a bigger, like a huge butternut, which I did have one. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You next? Oh, one more question, yes?
You could use coconut cream as well. That's probably more creamy. I don't know though if you mix that one in earlier on, whether it would coagulate a little bit. I'm not sure. The milk doesn't.
Okay, thank you very much. So what do you think? Is it good? Very nice? Very good, isn't it? On a hot night, a hot soup on a cold night, and that's a great one. Thank you. Thanks, Deborah. Yes? Oh, that's why you asked. Yeah. He's got a garden full of Queensland blue pumpkins. That's why you asked. Yeah.
And you can do the salt to your taste if that's too salty or if it's not salty enough.
And so you didn't put as much cayenne in there? What was the?
No, I did not put as much of the. I just sprinkled it over the roasting vegetables, and it really didn't have that bite to it. So you could put more if you wanted.
What was it? What was giving it the bite?
It's the
hot paprika.
Hot paprika.
Yeah. So it's not cayenne, it's hot
paprika.
paprika.
Yeah, the hot paprika I had was slightly less hot than the cayenne. That might be why it doesn't have so much of a bite as well.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, so next we have is Rosetta. Yes, and Rosetta is going to demonstrate our next recipe tonight, which is oat burger slice. All right, thanks, Rosetta.
Hi everybody, how are we doing? Good, tummy's starting to get full, that's good. How did everybody enjoy their day yesterday? All the mothers, did you have a lovely day? Were you spoilt? It's good to have a day like that, isn't it? Well, today or this evening we're doing an oat burger slice. Now, it's made from oats as one of the main ingredients, but it's got a lot of other goodies in it. We'll start off with onion. 1 large onion, chopped up nice and fine. Celery, I put these through a food processor so that they're nice and fine. My husband doesn't like celery or parsley or carrots or stuff like that, but so I try to do it as fine as possible so that I hide it all from him. We've got to turn this on and then turn it down. Oh, does it? Oh, not wrong way. Okay. All right. So the onions. With the onions, we put a little bit of oil just to so it doesn't stick in the pan. Not much. You can use any oil, whatever you like. You know, whether it's vegetable oil or olive oil or something flavourful. Like Vivi did, she used the oil from the artichokes. Whenever you have things like, I love to keep things that are sun-dried tomatoes, marinated, things like that, that sit in oil. You never throw out the oil. You always keep the oil because you can always use it for something else. And it's always yum. So this is like 3 different steps to this. So we have the onion, celery, all nice and chopped up fine. Parsley, also in the food processor, nice and fine. Give it a whirl. And carrots. I've grated them nice and fine as well so that they all blend up together so it looks presentable. So you don't actually see one particular thing in it. So this needs to warm up. This is sort of most of the cooking that you do actually, this first part. It's just a matter of getting the onions so that they're a little bit translucent, not quite raw. What have I missed out? Garlic. Okay. This is the good bit. Crushed garlic, 4 cloves. You can add more, of course, or less, whatever you like, whatever you prefer. Whenever you have onion or garlic on the stove, if you're never hungry, if you smell that, you'll be hungry. As soon as you smell onions frying away, it just has that beautiful aroma, just gets your juices going, ready to start eating. One other thing with this recipe, this is actually a slice, so you bake it as a slice and then chop it up. But you can also use it as burgers. Actually make burgers out of it. So when all the ingredients are put together and they're all combined, you can form a ball and then squash it down and then put it in the oven to bake. So you actually have burgers, and they're really good for, you know, sandwiches, whatever. Okay, it's getting there. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Starting the onions starting to go a bit clear. The celery is letting out its juices, quite a lot actually. nice big juicy celery. A little bit longer. What else goes in here? That's it for the first bit. So it's just a matter of a few minutes just to let it cook up or saute so that it is not raw, although it does go in the oven later, but it's just easier when it's half done already. Okay, the next thing we need to do is the next step. So we have a few different ingredients now for the next one. This is mostly herbs and flavours and things like that. We have 1 tablespoon of dried mixed herbs. It's just a matter of adding it to the pot. Soy sauce. I have 7 tablespoons of soy sauce, which is most of the flavour that goes in this. The savoury yeast again, which gives it a really nice, a lot of people use it if they're making vegan cheeses and things like that. It sort of gives a cheesy flavour. It's also, we sell it downstairs in the shop, and it's very good for you. It's got a lot of B12s and B vitamins in it. Savoury yeast. Mix it all up, and then we have quarter of a cup of oil, again oil of your choice, whether you'd like olive oil or a less flavoured oil, teaspoon of salt, and 2.5 cups of water. Just plain water, doesn't need to be hot. And now it sort of looks like a broth, soupy thing. Now at this stage we can turn off the heat. We don't need the heat anymore. And now we add the stuff that will thicken it. We have walnuts, chopped up walnuts. You can put them through a food processor as well if you want. Excuse me. Walnuts or cashews, either one or a combination of both, whatever you have. So we put that in. So they're a little bit chunky, a little bit not. And one thing, instead of adding egg to bind it together, we have flaxseed meal. So you just buy the flax seeds and put them through your blender, and it grinds it up to a flour, and that will bind everything together just like egg does. So that goes in. We have 3 tablespoons of that. And lastly, we're going to add oats. You can use quick oats if you like, or these are just plain rolled oats. 3 cups of oats. And just mix it all up together. It's pretty sort of soupy still, but at this stage you sort of have to leave it to sit. And what happens when you leave it to sit, it stiffens up and gets thicker. The oats help because the oats absorb a lot of the liquid, but also the, what's it called? The flaxseed, that's it, the flaxseed. That's what helps it and binds it all together. So, if Tanya's ready to start hers, I will leave this just for a few minutes so that it absorbs everything because it needs to sit, because otherwise it's just a sloppy mess and not very good. So I will come back later and finish this off.
Okay, so the samples, do they get the sample now or after?
I don't know, if they're ready with the samples,
Get
you
the
can try
samples
the
there, guys.
samples.
Got the samples?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll get the sample coming out later.
Yeah,
Right, so
together with the
now we've
next
got, thank you very much, Rosetta, for that so far. And if any questions so far for Rosetta? No? Okay, so now we have Tanya. So we're going to come back to the oat burger slice when we're ready. But then let's go over to the next one tonight, which is the cauliflower bites. Yes? There we are. Sweet and spicy orange oven baked cauliflower bites. Thanks, Tanya.
Ooh. These. Thank you. I'll bring one of them. All the little jars and things. Good evening, all. How are we all doing? Everyone sounds a bit iffy tonight. Are we all good? All right. How have you been enjoying the recipes so far? All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. They've saved one of the best ones for second last. All right. Okay, this is a very straightforward recipe. There's nothing to it. Very simple. If there's a way you want to sort of incorporate your veggies, cauliflower. Who loves cauliflower? Yes, one of my favourites too. All right. So I'm going to start off here. Now you can see there that it's got there to get one small head of cauliflower. Now I cheated a little bit because I went and got the packet that's already in florets already. So you can either go and get yourself a cauliflower, whole cauliflower, and then sort of break off pieces. Now with this recipe, it's better if you have bigger pieces than the smaller ones. Smaller ones, if you have them too small, they end up becoming a bit mushy after you've baked them, and you don't want that. If you want them nice and crispy, you want to get good sized ones. So if they're about this size, okay, you cut them up into this kind of size and you should be right. Okay, so I've already mixed together my batter at the back, just to save us a bit of time. So you've got your flour there, you can add onion powder, garlic powder, paprika and water. So that's what I've got here, and you want it to come to a consistency that's not too thick, not too thin, yeah? Okay, so I've got that already prepped up the back. Now, panko breadcrumbs. Who's used panko breadcrumbs before? I prefer these much more to your normal breadcrumbs because you'll get that crunch out of it using the panko breadcrumbs. So it's actually really good for this recipe. Okay. So what I've done is I've prepped up my tray, ready for the oven, okay? So you've got your oven going at this point at 200 degrees Celsius. Now all you need to do is grab your cauliflower florets here, dip it in. You don't have to dip the whole thing in. I usually just to get a hold of the bottom, I leave the bottom just so that it's less mess. Tap the excess batter off, dip it straight into your panko breadcrumbs or your crumbs, and from there straight onto the tray. Yeah? Into the batter, just as is. Tapping off excess into the panko. Have it coated really well. Look, you don't want too much batter in there. So hence the reason why we sort of like try to get, yes, we dip it in, try and get the excess off. Otherwise you might end up with a bit of uncooked flour in there when you're baking it. This is another good thing about this, no oil. It's not fried, it's baked. So that's a bonus for this. Okay, so you see what the process is with that. Okay, just on top of the oven, there's ones that are already, yes. We'll show you what they look like after they've come out of the oven. So with our oven back here, it is a commercial oven, so I've put it in there for 20 minutes. I didn't have to turn mine halfway through. But with your oven at home, you might have to go 15 minutes through and then maybe turn them over so that you've got them all cooked through. So they'll come out nice and browned and crunchy like that. Yeah. And the good thing about that is, like, even when it's cooled down, it doesn't lose its crunch. Still very crunchy there. Now I'm going to now show you the next step to this, which is the sauce. Okay. The flour is, the one that I've actually used is not gluten-free, but you are more than welcome if you are gluten-free. That's the only thing that you need to omit is the all-purpose flour. You just need to make it gluten-free flour, and then it's basically gluten-free. Okay, now I am going to now show you the sauce, and it's all coming out to you now.
Okay, so on the sample plate we have the cauliflower bites. We also have Rosetta's oat slice, and we have the sauce. Is it the sauce that
It's the cauliflower bites that are tossed in the sauce.
Oh, the cauliflower bites you're eating have been tossed in a sauce that Tanya is going to demonstrate now.
Look, with this recipe, it is best when your cauliflower comes straight out of the oven and then you mix it in with the sauce and eat it straight away. That's the best part. You know, it's like if you really want to. Okay, I'm just mixing up my corn flour with the water. And then I'm going to turn on my stove just to a medium high heat. And I'm going to add everything else that's on your recipe sheet in there. So I've got here freshly squeezed orange juice. Nothing better than freshly squeezed. If you can't use freshly squeezed and you have bottled orange juice, by all means. But what I'm wanting to do here is actually so I've gone and used the navel oranges, which actually is the sweetest that we could find. And, you know, in a recipe like this, you can't go wrong with fresh. Fresh is best. Okay, so I've got the orange juice there. I've got the zest from the orange. I'm going to add that straight in. Like I said, this recipe, there's nothing to it. It's just pretty straightforward. What do I have here? Maple syrup. There we go. So with the maple syrup, I've got 4 tablespoons of maple syrup there. Then I've got here 1 teaspoon of the toasted sesame oil. Now you're probably thinking, what kind of mixture is this? Everything is going into it. But who's tasted the cauliflower? Did you enjoy it? Was it nice, or you a bit confused about the flavour? All
So
right.
how's it taste? Good? Yeah? That's good. Okay.
It's even better, like I said, it's even better when it's hot. Straight out of the oven and into the sauce, and then you devour it. It's like, okay, now with the chili paste, it's totally up to you how much or how little you want. Some people can handle more heat than others. So with this one, it's, as I've put there, that it's 1 teaspoon, but it's totally up to you. I'd probably put more because I love my heat, but I've been kind to you tonight and not put so much. Okay. All good. It's almost finished. Okay, just checking that I've got all my ingredients in there. I think I have. Oh, apple cider vinegar. With this, you can, if you don't like vinegar or apple cider vinegar in it, you can just leave it out. But the one that you're actually tasting now has actually got it in, so I'll add that into it. Okay. And then I've got there 1 clove of garlic, and I've got my one crushed already. If you do not have onion or garlic, feel free to just put ginger into this one. And then once that's come to the boil, what I'm going to do here is add into it that corn flour slurry that I made a little bit earlier. Straight into it. And then you just stir that up until it thickens up a bit. Once it thickens up, you can take it off from the heat and it's ready. It's ready then. You just want it to thicken up a little bit. You want for it to cool down a little bit before you actually mix in your cauliflower. So it doesn't take very long, maybe about 1 minute for it to actually thicken up, which it is doing now. As you can see, I don't know whether you can see that. That's it's like, you want it to be not too thick, but you don't want it too thin as well. You want it to actually coat your cauliflower really nicely. Once that's done, it's just a matter of, I'll just turn this off now. So I'm just going to, I'll just put these in here, just to, and then obviously when this has cooled down a bit, you can mix that sauce through. That wasn't a good job. And then just give that gentle toss. You don't want the breading to sort of break up. And that is basically it. It's ready to eat. You can then garnish it with some toasted sesame seeds and some spring onions on top. And that is a meal in itself. You can serve that over rice, or you can just eat that as a snack, really. Like, I'd probably take this up to my room and there we go. All All right, this wasn't turned off. And that's basically it from me. I'll move this over here.
Thank you very much. Okay, so what's the verdict? Good? That's good. All right, so now Rosetta is going to finish off with the oat, what she's been cooking here. Correct, Rosetta? Yep, what she's been cooking up here while we've been demonstrating the other ones. This is now ready to pour into our trays. So Rosetta's going to take us through that step. Thanks.
It's all combined now, like it's quite thick. It's still a little bit runny, but when you put it in the oven, it'll dry it up and combine it a bit more. So now the easy part is just a matter of a shallow baking tray, or a deep baking tray rather. Some baking paper, and we just empty it out. We just flatten it out. If you want it to be thicker, obviously you put it in a deeper pan and a smaller pan. Or if you want it, depends on the thickness that you want it. So it's just a matter of smoothing it out so it's even all the way across. The best bits are right up in the corners where it gets nice and crispy. 180 degrees, 50 minutes, maybe a little bit longer depending how brown you want it to be or how crispy you want it. But the ones you had tonight were 50 minutes. Then I just have sesame seeds. Sprinkle on top. It gives a nice contrast. At the moment you can't really see them, but when it's baked and it's nice and brown, the sesame seeds stay white, so it's a nice contrast. You can put other seeds. You can put pumpkin seeds. You can put sunflower seeds. Linseed even, but you probably won't see the linseed, although it's got linseed in it. And that's it, and then it's just a matter of baking it. You can leave it to sit some more if you like, so that it still gets a little bit firmer, and then bake it for about an hour. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed tonight and the food and everything, and I hope that you actually try these recipes when you get home and tell us next week whether you tried them and whether you liked them, whether they turned out for you. Okay, I'll go put this in the oven.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Rosetta? No? Okay. Taste bud says it all, yep? Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So, I did say normally we do 4 recipes a night, but being winter, there's nothing like a good dessert after a nice savoury meal. And so we've got one more special tonight, and that is a carob mousse pudding. Okay? So this is carob is a alternative to cocoa. All right, cocoa. Some people have allergies, and cocoa has some harmful things in it. If you, when it comes to some of the addictive nature of cocoa, and if you've eaten chocolate, a lot of sugar and everything in the chocolates you have. But carob is a healthy replacement for cocoa. It's a different flavour, but not too much different. But it does have a unique flavour, and so, but it is a similar in colour and you can use it in a similar way you would use cocoa. So that's the next recipe, and Deborah is going to demonstrate that one again. A double special tonight from Deborah. Thank you.
Okay, so for this recipe, being that it's a mousse, it is a bit rich, so we're not serving large portions. I was tasting it afterwards, and you wouldn't want to eat a large quantity of it, but you can eat it with ice cream, or you could eat it with something else that's maybe not so sweet, but it's all natural sweetener. So I just wanted to let you know that the rice that I used, it's a medium grain brown rice, and it's one of the rices that when you cook it, it's quite sticky. That's the kind of rice you want, and that's probably the best for this one, because you want a well-cooked sticky rice. So what you start out with is the rice, which you're going to be blending again. So it's very sticky. And I actually, to get it really sticky, I cooked it in a slow cooker. It's very sticky. Okay, so that's my cup of rice. And then I have half a cup of cashew pieces. Because you're going to be blending it up, it's no point having whole cashews. So these are really small cashew pieces here. So I put half a cup of cashew pieces. And then the dates. So what I do with the dates is I pour hot water over the dates to soften the dates. And then I use that water along with the dates. It makes it blend easier if you've soaked your dates. If you don't soak your dates, it's just very, very difficult. So I'm going to use the cup of dates with the water.
How much hot water would you put in the dates?
I just cover them, like I put them in a heat-proof bowl, and then I just cover them with water. You'll see that with this recipe, I'm actually going to need some more water. I forgot my water. You add water as you go, because you're going to be adding to the 5-cup mark in your blender.
How much water do you need?
I'm going to need some water. Can someone get me just a jug of water? Okay. So anyways, but you start out with this with a little bit of water and blend that first to get rid of most of the grittiness. And then you add your other items. So I'm just going to get some more water first, and then I'll blend, and then I'll add the other ingredients, and then I will top it up with water at the end. Okay, sorry. I don't often do the demonstrating, so I forgot the water. Thank you. So I'm not measuring because I'm not going to pour in enough to come to that 5-cup.
How much would you roughly say?
I'm just pouring a little bit in, maybe, I don't know, a cup, half a cup. But you'll see when I start blending that the blender is going to struggle with that, but I want to get the dates and everything blended up fine before I start blending everything else.
So you were using the home Vitamix here, yeah?
And then it starts to struggle, so it's going to need more liquid, but that pretty much did what I wanted to do, is to get most of the dates blended up. Now I'm going to add the rest, which is the carob powder, and we have carrot powder in the shop downstairs, so that's 3 tablespoons of carrot powder. And I wanted to bring out the coffee substitute that I used. This is the one that I use, it's Nature's Cuppa. It's like a barley malt drink that's an alternative to coffee. It's barley, rye, chicory, and I've put that in as well. So I've got 2 teaspoons of that. It just gives it a slightly mocha flavor. And then I've got 3 teaspoons of vanilla. And 2 generous tablespoons of honey. Thanks. And then the corn flour, it's 4 tablespoons of corn flour, and I use the corn flour. And that way this is gluten-free because the rice is gluten-free. And then I put 2 drops of peppermint oil. You can use, I don't know, this one I know is a food grade one. So I'm just going to put 2 drops. It gives it that mint flavor. I can't see it coming out. Oh, there it is, 2 drops. So I am going to have to add water, but I'm just going to add a little bit first. So I want to come to the 5-cup mark on the blender. And let me see. It's really hard when they do oh, there it is. There's 5. Right there. I'm just going to go to that line now in the blender. So that's about what I want for my liquid. And the salt that's in the recipe, I actually put the salt in the rice to cook the rice. So I don't add the salt in here. And I cooked a bigger batch than that, so that's you could probably put a little bit less salt. Maybe just a pinch or half that amount of salt easily to cook that rice. So I'm just going to blend again. And you might need to, well, it doesn't look too bad. Sometimes I use the spatula down the sides to make sure you've got everything, but it's blended really nice and smooth. And if you want as well, if you don't want to use the honey, you can just use the dates. It just depends how sweet you want it. But that is, it's like a thick cream, and then you cook that on I would say a lower heat. And you have to stir it constantly because it will stick to the pot. And then you pour it into your dishes and you chill it, and it tastes really nice chilled. It tastes even better the second day because the flavor tends to go and blend in really nicely. But it's kind of just an alternative to chocolate. It doesn't have some of the things that chocolate has, and it's non-dairy and gluten-free.
Nutritious as well.
So are there any questions? Yes? You could use a jasmine rice. I used a medium grain brown rice. So that tends to be a real sticky rice when you cook it if you want to use a brown rice. If you want to use a white rice, yes, use one that's sticky as well, because you want something that's going to blend really well. You don't want it to be really gritty. And That's why too you don't put all the water in the beginning, because you get a better blend that way. So the peppermint just gives it that nice minty flavor, but you could kind of leave it out if you don't like that. And you could also, like I said, you could make it less sweet. If it's not sweet enough for you, if you have a real sweet tooth, you can add a little bit more honey. The carob powder, well, if you wanted to, you could substitute the cocoa powder, but the thing that you'd have to remember is if you do use cocoa powder, carob is naturally sweeter than cocoa powder, so this will not be as sweet if you use cocoa powder. So you could do the same thing, but we're just showing you an
cocoa is
alternative.
naturally bitter, and so you would need to add. Sorry? No, if Deborah's saying that if you didn't use carob powder, you might want to use cocoa, you're saying. But if you did use cocoa, cocoa is naturally bitter and therefore it requires more sweetener. Whereas carob is naturally sweet, or it's significantly sweeter than the cocoa. So carob powder, you don't have to add as much sweetener to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but if this one's mainly sweetened by the dates, and because of the carob powder, or if you used cocoa powder, you don't notice the color of the dates when you're using the sweetener, because if you were not to use those powders, then you would have a different color. But the carob or the cocoa will hide the dates, so you don't see that that's your sweetener.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you. Okay. Who's enjoyed that one? Yes? Nice, isn't it? Very nice. Cost you $10 at a restaurant, that one. Just finish off on dessert. It does, doesn't it? Adding that peppermint. Very nice. Yeah. Well, that's our recipes for tonight. And have you enjoyed them all? Yep. And I hope you have. And if you want to make these at home, don't forget we have streamed these live on YouTube on our Schofield's Church YouTube channel. So if you look up, just search for Schofield's Church YouTube and you'll come across our channel there. Go down to the live, click on the live tab and you'll see the videos, or this video for this week will be up there. We also try to keep them in a playlist on that front page as well. So just look for those for the Vegetarian Way and you'll be able to follow along with the recipes if you're making this at home. So that's all we have for our recipes tonight. Now, so just so you know, for those who haven't been here before, downstairs, the back of this hall, but straight beneath, we have a small bookstore and health foods outlet. Okay, so just some foods that you may not be able to get elsewhere. We tend to have a stock of them down there, and you can have a look through there if you're interested. And just for the cooking demonstration tonight, it's what? Who knows? The food store is 10% off. Yeah, just for tonight. So, okay, 10% discount. So you might want to go down there, and also for the to help cover the cost of the ingredients and everything, we just ask for a donation as you're going out. If you feel free, whatever you want to feel to give towards helping cover some of the expenses here. It is a free community service, but a little donation does go a long way to helping us out as well. So thank you very much, everybody. With this now, I'd like to invite you just to bow your heads for a moment as we ask for a blessing as we depart from here. Gracious Father in heaven, Lord God, we thank you for your presence here tonight. We thank you for helping us through this presentation and for giving us this knowledge, Lord, of how to use the things you've provided in nature to prepare it in a palatable and nourishing way that it can nourish our bodies and our system the best. And we thank you for this knowledge. We ask you to bless everyone here tonight. May you keep them all safe as they travel home and keep us all safe until we meet again. And we thank you for all this in the name of your dear Son, Jesus. Amen. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Now, normally we'd be starting at 7:30. Is 7 o'clock okay for everyone? Is that? Yeah, because we're trying 7 o'clock this year. Some felt it was a bit later, if we start at 7:30. So 7 o'clock next week, same venue. Look forward to seeing you all then for our Vegetarian Way cooking demonstrations. Thank you, everybody. Good night. God bless, and we'll see you next week. And just come out, just as everybody's been in the back room here. We've got the people here helping us out. Owen, Zephaniah, and Larry's out the back there too. So thank you for them as well. Thanks. Oh, and Georgia as well. Georgia's out there too. Thanks.